now, we start our conversation with Dr. Gwen Ramokgopa, who's the ANC Treasurer General.
You're with Clement Manyathela.
702.
TG, thank you so much for coming to 702. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement, and good morning also to the listeners and viewers.
I appreciate you coming through. You've never been to this studio, have you?
I think I've
You
been,
have.
especially
Have you been
when
with
I was...
Yes. Did you do anything with
I
Sidi,
did
my
with
dear,
Sidi
right?
at some stage,
Yes, I do. I remember that. Yeah, that was in this studio. I've never really had you on my show here, so I appreciate you coming
It's my privilege and
through.
pleasure.
Okay, so I want us to start with, of course, an issue that the Secretary General addressed yesterday, and it's an issue that you have also addressed as well, of ANC leaders who are sharing their reflections about where the party is right now. Senzo Mchunu spoke about the ANC being on the verge of collapse. Malusi Gigaba was talking about the efficiency of the NEC and whether or not it was a good decision to get into a coalition with the ANC. Naledi Pandor just the other day was also talking about how the ANC has lost its glory. What concerns do you have as an organization when you have leaders like that reflecting on the organization and stating where they think the party is at this moment?
We have agreed that it is the culture and tradition of the ANC to have one message, many voices. And leaders need to be available in their branches in particular, in their communities and in their sectors to articulate what the ANC has discussed and also sees as a way of advancing the nation. Because that's what the ANC was really birthed for, to free the nation during the colonial apartheid times, and also to advance the nation, to ensure that our nation prospers. And that's the most important issue. I think what sometimes we worry about is whether leaders are articulating the collective views effectively, and also that we should not also put the organization into disrepute. And where there are objective challenges, be able to provide hope and possible solutions. But we are also availing ourselves to share, like I'm doing here, with the nation what the discussions are about, and exactly what we're doing with this honorable positions that we have of leading this organization of the people.
The tricky thing is going to be deciding who then you take action against, because the Secretary General says Senzo Mchunu and Malusi Gigaba will face action, but Naledi Pandor won't.
Well, let's allow the Secretary General to do his task of following up the NEC resolutions and investigating, engaging, and then he will report to us. He reports to us as officials, and finally NWC and NEC. I would not want to get into the merits of the cases at this point in time, because he hasn't reported to us.
And I'm looking forward to, once he's reported that, what then the collective decision is. Because as I say, the tricky thing is, who do you decide who you take action against? I mean, the president once said ANC's corruption accused number one, for instance. Someone could argue that you're bringing the party into disrepute. How do you make such a bold statement, for instance? But that's a conversation that we'll have once the collective decision has been taken. There are some concerns, though, from even some within the ANC, that what's happening now is that you're silencing legitimate debate, because what these people are saying is not necessarily false, is it? I mean, Senzo Mchunu says the ANC is on the verge of collapse. That's not necessarily false. And he says if we don't do anything to change this and implement our renewal agenda, then this is the end of us. That is true.
I haven't listened to the whole, and that's also the important issue why there has to be a receipt of the full statement and also engagement with the relevant leaders who I both respect. All three of them I both respect, and also to engage. I think you'd remember that it's not only them that we have raised concerns about what they have articulated. That is a continuous effort to ensure, as I've said, to have one message, many voices. We must speak, but we must speak what advances the national interest and what also represents what the ANC says. So I think, as I've indicated, I think let's allow the SG to execute his task, but he's not the final voice. He will report to us and we will engage, we will advise one another and indeed look at how we focus not on ourselves, but focus on dealing with crucial matters of the nation.
What is your assessment, where as the organization, I'm not asking just you, as the Treasurer General, what progress do you think you've made in the implementation of the renewal agenda?
If you have listened to what Me Naledi Pandor said, at least I had an opportunity to listen to her live. She started by articulating what she had engaged with Me Mashope with on the progress that South Africa has made. And I think that is lost in the conversations that followed. And then she goes to explaining what challenges made her perturbed that within the organization and in society. I really fully agree with her that we have made progress. And if it is possible for South Africans, because it's not the ANC that made progress, it is us as a nation. We focus on the progress we've made, especially on the social security side, and on ensuring that our democracy is resilient. Even the 2024 elections shows that our democracy is resilient. So if we can focus on that and say we can't only delve in the glory of the positives, because if we don't deal with the challenges that we have, especially critical challenges, even the progress that we have made may be reversed. And that is the message that we want to give. And that is also the message that President Ramaphosa was putting across at the National Convention, which I was privileged also to attend and represent the ANC. We mustn't come across as if you have a sore, you don't throw away your body. You say, all over my body, I feel good, I feel healthy. But this sore, I must deal with it. But we mustn't characterize the sore as everything about us.
I still go back to my question, though. How do you assess your progress on the renewal agenda? Are you confident that, because you've been speaking about renewal for probably over 10 years now?
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, since I was a political journalist, I used to report about the renewal agenda of the ANC. But I wonder, has it taken shape?
If we still have problems, which I believe we still do, it could have been worse if we didn't have a renewal program. What have we done with the renewal program? I think immediately in 2018, we resolved that let the sitting president recuse himself to deal with what was a crucial national concern at the time, especially post the Zondo Commission. And that's not an easy decision for any party to do. But we took that decision. We also took a decision to suspend a sitting Secretary General who was finally expelled. Both, anyway, were finally expelled. Those are not easy decisions to take. And we intervene continuously when there are issues that are raised of wrongdoing within the party. But the other important issue was to strengthen the capacity of ANC deployees in government in particular to serve South Africa better. You would see that in our deployment, the previous local government deployment and also national, We have put criterion such as experience. We've put criterion on qualifications because those are institutions. Having been a mayor of a city, I know that's a business. You are running a business. You need capacity to do that. So those are the efforts and the initiatives. Just now, we have assigned David Makura, who's the head of political education, to work also with the Veterans League to develop a program, for all branches before they go to elections. And the focus is what? We are established as the ANC historically to serve South Africans. And new members are expected to do community work before they are fully accepted. So those are some of the interventions that we've done. Are there still challenges? Yes. I think like in any organization there will be, but we want to move away from focusing on ourselves to focus on what the ANC was established for. And just on Saturday I was at a funeral and one of the bishops outlined it, said that yes, we are happy with what we have. Please attend to the issues that we are concerned about. So I think we need to preserve the progress, to celebrate the progress that we've made, to celebrate the tenacity of South Africans and the ability of South Africans to converse on how to move forward together, especially on very, very chronic problems that we have, like issues of corruption, issues of GBV, and issues of a sluggish economy.
Okay, speaking of corruption, because South Africans, and I want to try and make this practical. So when we talk about renewal, that means you take consequence management seriously.
Yes.
Like let's take the State Capture Commission, for instance. There were many names that were mentioned there. Some of them, your own leaders, but they're still there. So as a party, how do you then explain that you still have people still very much in their positions, even though you know what was revealed at the State Capture Inquiry? I remember there was a time, I don't know if it was Jeff Hadebe, who was assigned with ensuring that they look at the report and see which ANC leaders have been implicated and deal with it. I could be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong. But whatever happened to that?
That report was finally processed and presented to the disciplinary committee. So I don't think there's any matter that we have left unattended, and I'm aware that some of those implicated are now in court to try and have the findings reviewed. So it's not that nothing was done, and some, as I've said, if you look at the then sitting president, would resolve that he must recuse himself and face those allegations against him. And we finally expelled him and also expelled even a sitting SG. So it was during those processes as well that we've done that.
Okay, I've got some follow-ups questions on that, but we'll get to them after this break. It's 23 minutes now after 10 o'clock. We're having a conversation with the ANC Treasurer General, Dr. Gwen Ramokgopa.
You're with Clement Manyathela.
7:02. Let's walk the talk.
It's 26 minutes now after 10 o'clock. We're in conversation with Dr. Gwen Ramokgopa, who is the ANC Treasurer General. You can join this conversation as well by calling us on 011-883-0702. If you prefer to send us a WhatsApp voice note, you can do so on 072-702-1702. I'll get to your questions in a moment. Dr. Ramokgopa, I want to ask about what are you seeing on the ground as an organization? I mean, there are recent polls that are suggesting that you are further declining. And of course, we can ask questions about how objective those polls are. But what are you picking up on the ground, especially when you look at even by-elections, for instance? Are you recovering ground at all?
Clement, objectively, I think if you look at the 2024 elections, In those areas of stronghold of the ANC, not many people went out to vote. So the voter turnout was low, and we've acknowledged that. And secondly, we also have engaged with our communities, especially through branches and through regions and all that, to identify the areas that need to be improved. But we also appreciate that in regions like Vembe and in some areas in the Eastern Cape, where there is recognition of a visible improvement, the ANC has done well. I think in the other 5 provinces. The biggest challenge is in the metros and big towns. And we also think that it is also because of the issue of the unemployment, the economic problems that we have. And some of the voters told us in our faces during campaign that for the ESCOM problems, they still are not sure whether this is real improvements or it is a gimmick for us to get their votes. So they did tell us that they will not go out and vote. But we hope that with the resolutions of the electricity problems that are there, with the additional efforts that we're making on issues of water, the voters will have confidence again. So we acknowledge that the vote and the confidence of the people should not be taken for granted, and it's a continuous effort to ensure that we are responsive.
What are some of the biggest issues you pick up? You mentioned ESCOM and load shedding now, but would you say that's really been the biggest challenge in as far as people's trust is with the ANC? What are the key challenges that you are getting? So when you are campaigning or you're on the ground and people that are unhappy with the ANC, what issues do they raise with you apart from power cuts?
First and foremost, let me say the biggest 3, let's say the big 3. It's the sluggish economy, families who have spent no effort to have their children educated, and many with state support, which they appreciate, are still unemployed. So youth unemployment is by far one of the biggest challenge. So the economy itself, that is not inclusive and that is not job creating. The second issue is the issue of crime, corruption, including gender-based violence and femicide. And the third issue is just basic service delivery, responsiveness to when there are, like electricity affected households, as well as small businesses. I mean, just imagine if a woman was a makwenya go high and but ahona electricity. They don't have coal stoves anymore. So it affected many companies, big and small. The big companies laid off because they couldn't afford to have disruptions and still keep employees, and the small companies, businesses and traders also were impacted. The issues of water in rural areas, I think those are the 3 big ones.
But they've been the 3 big issues. Can we agree? Like 10 years ago, unemployment was still a big issue. Crime and corruption was still a big issue. Service delivery was still a big issue. To this day, when you look at the Auditor General's report and the mismanagement at local government, what does that say about the organization when the same issues that were big 10 years ago are still big today, and you've been in charge throughout?
Yeah, it shows that we are really a society in transition. And how long will transition take? We need to continuously be together. We need to be more together than apart. And especially that sometimes even new problems emerge, like COVID. Who would have anticipated would have such a huge disruption also of the economy. But we're happy that with the management, we were able to contain the COVID pandemic. Those who have parted because of that, may their souls be blessed. But we have emerged as a nation. So we must refocus on working together to indeed deal with these challenges until we resolve them. I don't want to come across as if we are condescending or insensitive. However, we have been a divided nation for over 3 centuries, 300 years, where the majority was deliberately underdeveloped, oppressed, and in a way presented to be servants of the minority, and where the economy was not looked at in its totality, when participation was not there. So, and as I've said at the beginning, let's look at the progress that we have made and be able to embrace it. I've seen and I've engaged, especially in the PBF, many young people that are making it economically, but there are still few compared to the challenge.
I'm going to give you an opportunity to continue, explaining that in a moment. I just want to go to the latest Now Witness News headlines because I'm late now.
7:02.
The Clement Manyathela Show.
Let's walk the talk.
20 minutes before 11 o'clock. I'm going to come to your WhatsApp voice notes in a moment on 072-702-1702 as we continue this conversation with Dr. Gwen Ramokgopa, who's the ANC Treasurer General. Before I go to these calls and voice notes at TG, can I ask you to you were talking about the transition period that you say we are on and the years that we've spent being divided. I just want you to finish up that point and then we'll get to the voice notes.
Yes, I was also on issues of employment. We are now in a new era of a digital economy where the ICTs are also crucial for new skills and all that. So that's part of the transition. In terms of crime and corruption, I think we've had to also tighten the legislative framework, including the grey listing, to trace money so that we close the loops of corruption. We must remember that there's a corrupter and the corruptee, and both in private sector and also in public sector. And on basic services, yes, some say electricity is because we expanded very quickly to cover rural areas and all that. But I want to conclude by saying we couldn't
infrastructure properly for electricity,
especially maintenance.
We didn't do maintenance, but we
Yes.
also didn't expand the infrastructure. We just took it as it is, which was servicing a few people, and we thought it's going to service the whole of South Africa as the population was growing.
Especially at the generation side. I think it's issues of maintenance, and but you remember the Kusiles were also implemented during this
And
period.
the money was stolen there.
And all that.
That's why there were delays.
And all that. So what I'm saying is that there has been work done. There has been progress in other areas. And if this question could be asked, could we have done more? And the answer that I would give is yes, we could have done more. And there are areas where we could have done better.
Yeah.
And this is the moment of the renewal that we're also focusing on to do more and to do better.
I hope you get the point I'm trying to make when as you explain what happened with Kusile, and I say there was a lot of corruption at Kusile. The reason we are where we are now is because the government at the time failed to heed the warnings that were given that we need to look at our infrastructure, expand it, but also maintain it. We didn't do anything about that. And then when you've got Kusile, there are overruns that cost more money because there are people who just want to steal. So even as you try to resolve situations, there are people who are finding opportunities to steal. When, though, TG, are we going to stop looking at what has happened in the past? I mean, I don't want to in any way minimize the impact of colonialism, the impact of apartheid, but surely at some point we can't be going back to we have endured years of, and therefore that explains why we are where we are now. We need to be able to say over the last 10, 30 years, this is what we've been able to do. or this is what we have failed to do, or this is what we should have been able to do? Because it looks like we keep going back there, but you've been in charge for 30 years. What have you been able to do in the 30 years, and what do you think you can do better in the 30 years? Because taking us back there then actually amplifies the failures more, because it means it's almost like you're looking for a scapegoat of, oh yeah, but the challenges were so big then. The reality is you've got 30 years. What have you done with the 30 years? Which is a lot of things, by the way. I don't think you've not done anything.
And we don't want to stay there. But we are saying, acknowledge that there is progress that was done. There were hospitals like Steve Biko, which were not there, that were built during this period. There was no train, which was introduced during the... So let's not stay there. That's all I'm asking. But let's acknowledge that there was progress and there were mistakes that happened. And that's why we're strengthening and tightening the laws. That's why there were commissions, there are interventions. So let us, as South Africans, say, here are we. We've also just now had a budget agreed to in this GNU era. That budget presents an opportunity, almost R1 trillion of infrastructure. And there is a commitment that 40% thereof of the procurements should benefit women, this being also a Women's Month. That's one of the reasons why I'm here, to say that there are opportunities to be more resilient, there are opportunities to leverage, and I'm happy that one of the people who are on the National Dialogue team is Sia, who also, and other young people who are looking forward to really using also technology, using AI, using new ways of doing things to fast track the development and advancement of our country. So let's acknowledge the past, the colonial apartheid times, the 30 years, what we've achieved, the mistakes that happened, the interventions that are continuing, and let's also say, how do we move forward? Put more energy, taking lessons, and then say, how do we move forward?
Do you
and
think
this
you
is
have
the time.
taken the lessons as the ANC and even your deployees in government from the mistakes that have been made? Let me think of just a practical example. The president implemented, in fact, established a high-level review panel. I think at the time it was led by Dr. Sidney Mufamadi, to look at the State Security Agency, because there was a lot of corruption happening there. In fact, the high-level review panel said that that security agency, State Security Agency, was used to advance the interests of the former President Jacob Zuma. And the president was appalled, and he said, this is wrong. There are two people that were found to have done wrong by the high-level review panel, David Mahlobo, Arthur Fraser. That report speaks in problematic terms about these two people. What does the president do? Appoints them in his cabinet. I mean, how does that make sense? You're serious about renewal. You're telling us that you have established a high-level review panel to look at why the State Security Agency is almost collapsed and politicized. And the very people that the high-level review panel points at, you take them and you bring them to come into your cabinet. Arthur Fraser was made the Correctional Services Commissioner. David Mahlobo, Deputy Minister of Water and Sanitation at the time. How does that communicate to any South African that this is a president who's serious about accountability and renewal?
On the specific cases, those two specific cases, we can revert back to you. But the point that also would like to make, for instance, there was a report that was released on the progress made on the state capture. You asked me more about those who are in the ANC. The National Prosecuting Authority, for instance, has released progress per area from the Bosasa case, from the Transnet case, from the South African Airways, SABC, ESCOM that you've also talked about. So there are interventions. In terms of the two individuals that you have mentioned, you also need to appreciate that there has to be processes and also, reasonable doubt or beyond reasonable doubt that indeed they have acted in this way or that way. But I will certainly revert back to you on that. And Mahlobo was one of those that had to go to the NDA. And indeed, we were appreciating that the NDA indicated that the processing of that case was delayed. So it's not that there hasn't been any intervention. There are those that have not come through, and I don't necessarily want to mention names, but I think you and me are aware that there are those that didn't
and
get
to be
back
clear,
to cabinet.
I don't expect you to answer for the president. I'm just giving you that as an example that, like, the stuff that happens that is just so crazy, like it doesn't make sense. It can't be justified. And I've had the president, by the way, in this studio, and I asked him the same question. And there's really no answer, because at some point it feels like, oh, I'm doing this for political reasons. But then you can't come to South Africans and say, I'm serious about renewal, I'm serious about accountability. And then you've spent so much money hiring Sidney Mufamadi and a team to go look at the State Security Agency, and they come and tell you Clement is a problem, and you say, Clement, come, be my deputy minister, be my correctional services commissioner. It just doesn't make sense. And I'm just mentioning to you that these are the things South Africans look at and say, clearly this party is not serious about accountability, because if you are, and you spend a lot of money looking at an agency, and then it shows that people have done wrong, at the very least, don't touch them, don't bring them in your cabinet. Allow the process to unfold where they can answer for themselves. But when you bring Arthur Fraser as a correctional services commissioner, knowing what he's done, it just boggles my mind. Can you share with us, TG, about the state of the party's finances? Because there have been issues around salaries that are not being paid at some point. Where are you now in terms of your finances? Have you managed to stabilize that?
I would prefer not to discuss the finances of the ANC because I don't think it is necessary. I thought I was also here to deal with the issues of this being a Women's Month, and also looking at how we can continue ensuring that we enforce the regulations, the laws that are there, and we develop programs and mobilize women and society in general and men in general.
But TG, you're the Treasurer General of the ANC. How
yes.
do you not want to talk about... I mean, I'll ask Sinazo, that's my producer. I don't think, if I wanted to talk about women issues, I don't think, when you are here as a TG, I really want to talk to you about ANC issues, finances of the ANC. I don't expect you to get into details, of course, but I wouldn't invite a senior leader like you to come and minimize you to just talk about women's issues. I wouldn't do that.
Well, I always say when you go to church, I go and serve the public through the ANC. I do many other things, including being a gender activist, including teaching at University of Pretoria Health and all that. So it's not minimizing, not to talk about other things. But in terms of, I was still giving a background why I would not like to talk about the finances, because we would like to be more outward focused and serve the public other than be inward focused. But all I can say is that we have worked very hard to stabilize the finances, and we are stable, and also we need to work even harder to achieve our mandate for sustainability.
Okay, I'm satisfied with that, because that's all. There are people, there are South Africans who work for the ANC. They listen to the show.
Yes.
They call in and say, I don't know if I'm going to get paid. They used to call in then. So my job here is to also ask, okay, when I have a TG of the ANC, I'll ask whether the finances are stabilized. So I'm satisfied with that. I don't expect you to get into the details. We're going to take a quick ad break. When we come back, there are some questions coming from some of our listeners. We'll play them on the WhatsApp line 072-702-1702. It's 9 minutes before 11.
702.
The Clement Manyathela Show.
Let's walk the talk.
7 minutes before 11 o'clock. Let's go straight to your WhatsApp voice notes on 0702-1702.
Hi, Clement, and good day to the Treasurer. I just would like to know, why is it that the ANC still acts as if the DA is their enemy and not their co-governing partner? Why is it that they don't realize that they actually need each other? I would ask John Steenhuisen the same question, by the way, and by no means putting the blame solely on the ANC. But my gosh, I wish they would just grow up and come together and realize that they need each other in order to, advance the interests of the country, that we need them in order to make this GNU work. Why do they act like they are enemies? When are they going to mature?
Morning, Clement and the team, and to your guest. For me, what I'm going to say to the ANC is that I don't think they get it, like what's happening to the people on the ground. Because I'm listening and I can hear what you're saying. It's not true, because I am from Limpopo and I am 37. Ever since I've been in Limpopo, there's never been water. We used to have water in a communal area, where you go to the street and you get water, you push with a wheelbarrow, you go home. And when I was growing up, during the election, the ANC would make sure that at that time the water would flow so that the people could vote for them. And then after, the water will stop. And then when I started working, I decided that I am going to have a water tank. There's no way I'm voting for the ANC. No way, no way, no way. Never.
Hi, Clement. It's Joe here. Can you please just ask your visitor there, what is ANC saying about porous borders, illegal immigrants in this country? Don't they probably see that this is affecting the people on the ground? Why is it not part of the priority for ANC to really look at this immigration situation seriously and address it?
Yeah, TG, there was a question about the DA, ANC in coalition and the issue of porous borders.
Thank you very much, Clement, and thanks for the inputs. I think the outcome of the 2024 elections created a situation where there is no majority party, and the decision of the ANC was to think beyond itself, its narrow focus as a political party, more as a party at the service of South Africans, and we opened up to work with all parties. So, and that's exactly what we committed to do, to put the interests of South Africans first. So we are calling on all political parties that are elected by citizens to put the interest of citizens first, and that we should collaborate to advance our country. The issue of the water in Limpopo, we are aware that in areas where we had made progress, there's also regression. Either because maybe lack of experience, also sometimes corruption, delays in building dams and all that. And one of the cases, and we certainly are working on that, and I'm aware that the President has launched some of the dams that were delaying in Limpopo. So we will certainly focus much more on that. It's one of our priorities. If you remember, eThekwini also had a problem where there were gangsters, what we call water tankers. I think Naledi also spoke about that. And we intervened to establish a more effective leadership. And I think you can agree that eThekwini has turned around. So even where there is, new and emerging problems, the intervention should work. And we are aware that there are many areas where we need to deal with this. I'm deployed to the Buffalo City, and water is also a matter that we are working with the National Ministry to deal with it. Okay. Joe talks about porous borders. You'd recall that the Border Management Police were established about maybe a year, 2 years ago, and there is collaboration amongst the security cluster to get this right. Indeed, it is a concern for all of us.
Okay. TG, thank you so much for making time for us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Clement, and thank you for the viewers and listeners.
It's a minute before 11 o'clock.